Thank you, sisters. This is a real tribute to Carol that we arrived in our seats in less than 5 minutes. And it's almost like every time we go to have an interruption, we have another announcement, but next announcement about the farm stand. So the farm stand near the main entrance. This is what you could pick up on your way home if you would like. Asparagus, strawberries, honey, eggs, lettuce, spinach, beets, radishes. And you can also pick up strawberry mint lemonade. That is by the farm stand at the main entrance. You could also go to the Red Box Farm, which is behind Building 4, that's us, where we are, and there you could get strawberries, kales, radishes, lettuce, honey. The Natural Way, this is almost like you might as well just visit the farm stands and learn why they have these names. The Natural Way behind Building 4 has perennial plants, that's down my alley, and herbs. So after we leave here, please feel free to go to all the farm stands on the property. And we welcome Carol back for the afternoon session.
Well, welcome back. How was lunch? Yes, very good. That is a great system you have here. I'm going to see if I can. I'm going to try that at home where I live. I live in a community of 3. Me, myself, and I. No, it's really a wonderful system, so thank you. All right. So here you are, carrying each other. Okay. You can decide who's who. Here you are, finding the sweet spot, the moment and the time and space of grace that allows that kind of trust in each other, first of all, and then together in God. So I invited you before we broke for lunch to just kind of take a couple of minutes of quiet and write down for yourself, what did you hear you saying as you listened to a communal table up here before we broke for lunch? So I'm going to ask you to find that where you wrote it down. And as our gathering prayer this afternoon, we're just going to have you read that to each other at your table. No conversation, just to read it. So let's just take some quiet as we come back together again, mindful that we are already held in the sweet spot of God's heart. And our work this afternoon is to ask God to help us to know that more deeply, that we are already in that sacred space of trust with God and with each other. So let's just be still for a moment. And so I invite you now as we begin this afternoon, if you would just take a moment to just offer what you heard this morning. Just offer it to each other at the table. No conversation. Just listen. And when everybody is finished at the table, just come back to silence. I invite us to pray the scriptures that are at the top of your little handout. Pray them as the closing part of our prayer as we begin this afternoon. So that they may be one as we are one, that the world may come to know that you sent them and that you loved me. What concern is that of yours? You follow me. There are many parts. There is one body. Come, Holy Spirit, fill the hearts of your faithful and kindle in them the fire of your love. So we begin our time this afternoon the way we begin everything we do. In the name of our God who creates us, redeems us, and sanctifies us. Amen. So, same process for this afternoon and a different topic. The topic under the concept that's in your chapter vision statement, we voice our vision for the future. So this afternoon I'd like to invite you into, again, contemplation and discernment around engaging the mission and charism of religious life, living and leading the emergent now. There really is no such thing as an emergent future. There's only an emergent now. The religious life of the future is already here. So I'd like to just open some of that this afternoon. As you consider your discernment questions this afternoon, we'll look at two essential elements that your table thinks are just really core for living religious life now and in the immediate future, and two essential elements for leading religious life now and into the immediate future. Okay, so that's our little agenda for this afternoon. So I'd actually like to begin with YouTube. I'm sure you've heard of the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, right? There's a piece of music that was created. You may have seen it. I believe it was created, I'm going to say in Norway or in the Netherlands, which is why the population is what it is. It was a high school peace camp. And all the high schools kind of submitted students who would go to this, and 500 of them got accepted. And the person who wrote this song knew some of the leaders that were doing this peace camp. Anyhow, it was suggested to him that he come and use this audience of students as a way to kind of publish, if you will, this song for the first time. So I'd like to invite you to enjoy it, first of all. But also I want you to be thinking, as you listen to these 17 Sustainable Development Goals, I want you to think of what you personally and you as a community are contributing in terms of furthering these goals, because you are, okay? So, we love the SDGs is what it's called.
There's a bright new star that's shining in the sea in of transformation for whole systems view. Whether we can hold the whole planet in our hearts and minds depends on me and you. Like birds who stretch their wings, taking 17 goals and say, we love the SDGs, we love the SDGs. Ending poverty and hunger, living healthy lives, education and equality go side by side. We love the SDGs, we love the SDGs. Taking care of all the life in the ocean and land, clean energy and water, they go hand in hand. We love the SDGs, we love the SDGs. An economy that gives us what we all really need: green cities, green products, and a lot less green. We love the SDGs, we love the SDGs. Now we have to come together, live in justice and peace, turn dream into reality for you and me, and for everyone, and the ones who come after us. Everywhere in all its forms. End hunger, make health and well-being the norm. Provide education everywhere for all ages. Create decent jobs that pay decent wages. Clean energy and water for the whole population. Clean up industry with lots of green innovation. Equality and empowerment for women and girls. Equality for everyone all over this world. Creating sustainable cities is vital. All production and consumption has to stay in closed cycles. The climate, the land, the ocean, ecosystems, all life on this planet is crying out for assistance. Got to end war, make peace, do right by one another. Be generous to every human sister and brother. To achieve these sustainable development goals, we'll give it our minds, hearts, bodies, and souls. Like birds who stretch their wings, take 17 goals and say, we love the SDGs, we love the SDGs. Ending poverty and hunger, living healthy lives, education and equality go side by side. We love the SDGs, we love the SDGs. Taking care of all the life in the ocean and land, clean energy and water, they go hand in hand. We love the SDGs, we love the SDGs. An economy that gives us what we all really need: green cities, green products, and a lot less green. We love the SDGs, we love the SDGs. Now we have to come together, live in justice and peace, turn dream into reality for you and me. We love the SDGs, we love the SDGs. Ending poverty and hunger, living healthy lives, education and equality go side by side. We love the SDGs, we love the SDGs. Taking care of all the life in the ocean and land, clean energy and water, they go hand in hand.
So that's enough to wake you up after lunch, huh? Yeah? How many of you saw anything that you are doing articulated up there? Anything that you are about? Yes. Every hand in the room should be up, okay? What we are doing in terms of the global justice agenda is furthering the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And before that was the 15 Millennium Development Goals, okay? Those are all part of what we offer the world, isn't it? Okay. I'm going to ask you now, this afternoon, to put that aside. That is not the topic of religious life. So when we talk about voicing our vision for the future of the mission and the charism and religious life, it's kind of like the rope that the elephant and the giraffe are working on. We can't see where this starts, and we can't see where it's ending. And it's not going to be marked like this. Would that it would be, right? You're driving along the LIE, and there'd be a sign that said, "Future of Religious Life, just ahead." Actually, there is a sign like that. and it's pointing towards Brentwood, okay, and Philadelphia. Or a future that said, next exit, here you are. It doesn't work like that. Not when the life form itself is being transformed. And so this notion of an emergent future of religious life, the reason why I asked you to put aside the wonderful work that we are all doing, as are many other people, that is relative to the social justice agenda and Catholic social teaching and so forth, has to do with this part of an article. You may have seen it. It's on Global Sisters Report, so you can access it online. It's written by Colleen Gibson, who happens to be a Philadelphia sister. But I would read it even if it was a Brentwood sister. Oh, no, excuse me. Okay. But I'd like to begin this framework of the life and leading the life with the beginning of her reflection. She says this: "For the majority of my religious life, I have been told that the future will look different than the current reality. There's no doubt in my mind about this. In fact, there's no way that the future couldn't look different. Yet somewhere along the line, I realized this innocuous comment about the future meant different things to different people. For some, it was a simple fact. Numbers, buildings, ministries, everything could and probably would change. For others, though, the change meant something else. Our future isn't our own," one sister said to me at a community meeting. She then went on to speak about transitioning our ministries to lay leadership, the importance of promoting our associates program, and interesting new programs developing involving young adults and spiritual, quote, nuns. I listened intently to her points, noting her energy around these issues. I also noticed something else. None of these plans involved me, or any newer members, for that matter. Then last week, a New York Times article about the nuns and nuns movement showed up in my inbox. It wasn't the first I'd heard about the movement, having read it in Global Sisters Report in a series, and I heard about it from other sisters. The thing that stood out to me, this time though, was an ongoing narrative that even the sister who spoke of the future not our own seemed to have internalized. As diminishment accelerates, we must find someone to carry the charism. The narrative of diminishment and replacement, though, isn't the whole story. Where, I wonder, is the future of religious life? What's a more accurate picture? And she goes on to say some other things. And then she says this: "Vowed religious life is not just a way of living or a systemic approach to social change. It is a fundamental call to a life committed to the gospel through distinctive set of vows, and in particular, a means of communal living. To consider the future of religious life without making serious efforts to preserve and further this form of life is a dismissal of those committing themselves to vowed religious life today and to those whom God will call in the future. I have repeatedly heard that the future of religious life lies in passing on the mission and the charism to lay associates and partners. Many of my peers relay similar stories from their community meetings, in which other forms of congregational membership are pointed to as the hope for survival of religious life. When other forms of membership are raised up as ways to bolster congregational numbers and reach, energy often swarms around the idea. This energy, in my experience, indicates a hope that new partners will continue the work of the congregation, or that newcomers will be able to absorb the wisdom of the sisters and structure. This energy, however, does not address religious life." I invite you to read the whole column. Now, I'm very aware that there are vowed members in this room and there are also associates in this room, and I'm very happy for that diversity. The conversation this afternoon now is about religious life. And many of you have heard me say before, we are not a justice organization. We are not a social service agency. We are not landlords for other do-gooders. We are not an NGO, even though, of course, we do have NGO status. We are a religious congregation. The future of the mission and the charism is in a lot of people beyond vowed members, because a lot of people have the charism beyond us. We're slowly learning that, aren't we? You didn't, but a lot of other groups thought that they had the charism, and only the sisters had the charism. Okay, well, we realized how short-sighted that was. The charism is a gift given to lots and lots of other people. So while the charism may live on in lots of other people, that is not the same as the congregation living on. Because the congregation, at least by definition now, is a community of vowed members. And so I'm making a point of this, sisters and associates and my brother, because what is being transformed is not the social justice agenda. There are a lot of people doing the SDGs, right? Absolutely. There are a lot of people caring about water and land, and it's good. It's good. We're part of that. What is particular to us right now is the moment in which we find ourselves in the evolution of religious life to be responsible, to create whatever space God needs for the next expression of religious life. So I'm not saying to stop doing the SDGs. I'm not saying that. It may, in fact, be part of the future of the mission and charism, absolutely. Done by others, not us. That's all good. That's not the work for us. The work for us is how to nurture the future of religious life. When it doesn't translate into, well, we have to go out on Brentwood Road and get some more young girls. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay? And I know this is, this is like pretty serious. You can feel it in the room, I'm not saying throw out the justice agenda. We can't do that. That's why we exist in terms of going to the peripheries. That's what this call is about. But a lot of other people are called by their baptism to go to the peripheries. Okay? So we don't have a take on that. What we do have a take on is that we are a religious institute. We live this particular consecrated life. That's what's emerging and transforming. Okay? So I just want to say a couple things, again, to provide a framework for when you think about the future of religious life, minus the external ministry. I've had wonderful opportunities to have conversations like this, and I ask vowed members in particular, describe religious life without the external ministry. And do you know most people can't do it? Because the life has been so equated to the ministry, which is good. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. But the life is not the ministry. The life is the life. Does that make sense? All right? So let me just kind of paint a few pictures here for you. This is you've seen this before, it's the two-loop theory. That while the emergence of something new is coming, there is the dying of the Paschal mystery of what has been. Right? And the space in between, I don't know if this has a pointer or not, this space. That's where religious life in the global north seems to be. We are smack in the middle between Good Friday and Easter Sunday. And Good Friday's not over yet. The dying, that's the D word, by the way, not diminishment. We're not diminishing. This expression of the life is dying. The picture that it was is dying. There's a new picture being formed of religious life. Please hear me. I'm not saying religious life is dying. What it looks like. Okay? So that this might be an image to help you that what we're talking about is a very, very sacred moment that only comes about every 300 or 400 years, give or take 50, okay, in the history of Catholic religious life. You know, from the early Christians to the desert mothers and fathers, to the monastics, to the mendicants, to the apostolic religious. And there's already another iteration of religious life, the missionary evangelist, and there's an indication there's another expression emerging. So it's sacred work. This life that we're talking about, this consecrated life, is a particular form of consecration to religious life. And the three key components are a prayer life, both personal and communal, a shared life, and a vowed life. It's the life form that evolves. And the life form is always responsive to the needs of culture, time, and history. That's what drives it. That's what drives it. When our founder and foundress, refoundress, our founder especially, Father Medai, you know, he did not form a social service agency. He took the charism that he was given, the graced insight, and he took it to the church. He asked to found a religious congregation. Otherwise, he could have just founded a wonderful organization of people who would do wonderful work. That's not what he did. It's not what Catherine Macaulay did. It's not what Mary MacKillop did. It's not what Catherine of Siena did, or Dominic, or Benedict, or Scholastica. They took their gift that they received from the Spirit, the charism, and they gave it to the church so that it would be universal. And they formed a group of people who would live it in a condensed version. That's what we are. We're the condensed version of the charism and the gospel. Pope Francis talks about the consecrated life being the concentrated life. Our entire life is focused on living the gospel. And so some of the shifts that have happened that help us get a sense of this emergent now. I think most of us in this room are familiar with the tremendous shift that happened when we went from the ladder of priest, religious, and lay to all are called to holiness. Okay? So this whole religious, we're lay people. All of us, I think all of us in this room are lay people, right? And that was a tremendous shift 50 plus years ago for us to get our heads around that. We're still trying to get our heads around it. The other shift is moving from institution to much more of a social kind of activity, especially in the global north. Big buildings, big ministries, big institutional. The shift is to move to much more social involvement, from large to small. Do you see the aerial picture of your campus? Okay? From large to small. From fixed to flexible. From stationary to itinerant. This next line is really important. The life itself is the first and primary ministry. The life itself is a ministry. And because it's so rich, it flows over. That's the way the thinking goes about religious life. The life itself is a ministry. So when we are no longer able to hop in a car and drive to, the Mary Louis Academy, you probably don't have it, but I've had sisters say to me, I can't do anything anymore. I just pray. It's an indication of how much we have aligned the life and the ministry. The life itself is a ministry. Anything beyond that is excess. And of course, it's always a response to unmet needs. So what does current religious life in the global north look like? And when I say the global north, I mean the United States, Canada, most of Europe, Ireland, and Australia. Okay? And the sisters in this room who are, celebrating fewer than 51 years in religious life, you can bear this out in some way. The picture of religious life, the emergent now, is minimally cross-congregation. That while newer members, younger, vowed religious, are very much at home in their home institute, they are living the life beyond their own footprint. In your case, of Brentwood. In my case, Philadelphia. That's beyond the congregation. Cross-congregation. They're also living a cross-charism. So it's not just all the Dominicans that are together, or the Josephs that are together. Younger members, the emergent religious life is cross-charism. It's cross-vocation. We're working with people in other vocations, single life, married life, consecrated life. It's cross-culture. It's cross-language. It's cross-life form expressions. I was having this conversation with one of your sisters last night. You know, the two conferences in the United States, the LCWR and the Conference of Major Superiors of Women Religious. Newer members, they have no idea. Why does that exist? Because they go to formation programs with each other. They don't care who wears what. It doesn't matter. They're a woman religious, living consecrated life. So cross-life form expressions. Cross, cross, cross. The emergent is that we are no longer in our bubble. That's already happening. And the way it's happening, for the most part, on more of a daily basis, is virtual. They are in touch with each other online. And they get together sometimes. There is a felt sense happening that sooner rather than later, they are going to find each other in real time and space and begin living cross-congregation, cross-charism, cross-culture, cross-vocation. There's already a couple houses in various parts of the global north where there are some vowed religious, married people, single people, all living in the same space, each doing their vocation. Okay? Everybody all right? So, the questions and the invitation to us are, how do we live the mission and the charism now? Because it can't be the way that it was. How do we live the vocation now? How do we live it fully and well? Living the reality and living the call again and anew. So just a couple of offerings before you have your conversation about what's essential, do you think, in living religious life now, and what kind of leadership is needed. First of all, we need a commitment to the future in the present, because the future's already here. It's already here. We need a commitment to the vocation, not the external ministry. Translation, a commitment to the life, not the SDGs. Commitment to the life comes first. The fruit of that is a commitment to the SDGs. Now, I know most of us know that, but you know the way we live it is a commitment to the SDGs. And oh yeah, by the way, we're sisters. Because what people want from us, not the SDGs, they want sister. Okay? Commitment to ongoing formation. Most of us in this room, our formation program got us to about age 40, if it did that. We've had no formation about how to be a woman religious at age 65 or 75 or 85. A commitment to prayer and the common good and the evangelical counsels, of course. Moving outward, welcoming all, living fully until we draw our last breath. Second quick thing, leadership. Okay, so the first piece, I'm just trying to give part of what is needed in a communal discernment process is like a construct for the conversation. All right, so I'm trying to basically say the emergent religious life is already here. And not only is it not what most of us have lived in this room, it is already not what most of us have lived in this room. And what does it mean for the Colleen Gibsons of religious life to be hearing all the time that the future of the congregation is in the associates and the agrégés and the ministry partners? And her question is well placed. Who is tending to the future of religious life? Because our associates and agrégés and partners in ministry, whom we absolutely love and share the charism, and it's all fabulous, that is not the future of the congregation. The congregation is vowed members. It's the future of the charism. Okay. So I want to say something about leadership. And one of the things about leadership is that what is necessary in religious institutes is for an institute to be able to hold up its own umbrella, to be autonomous. And you've heard of congregations who don't have people for elected leadership and, you know, that they're going to completion and all of that. That's what I'm talking about. When you cannot govern yourself, then you have to have a different conversation. What does it mean to govern ourselves? There are two components. One is canonical and one is corporate. I know we don't like either of those words, but that's what they are. Okay? I'm going to do the corporate first. Our congregations are corporations. And I'm sorry if you don't like it, but if you don't like it, then give your car back and give your budget back, you know, because we have to be civilly incorporated. We've got to be a legitimate legal entity. The corporate responsibility for leaders is all the administrative, management, operational, human resources, fiscal, legal, and the temporal goods. All the buildings and the land and the ministries and all that. Those things can, and in many cases now, are being done by non-vowed members. You do not have to be a vowed religious to steward the corporation, to take good care of all that stuff. Okay? And many congregations are choosing to have other people do that. Some congregations, they do it with sisters for as long as they can, and then it's like, oh God, we don't have anybody else, so we have to hire a lay person, you know. There are a lot of congregations that are actually choosing to put this corporate responsibility in the hands of A, people who know what they're doing, and B, people who are not vowed members. Why? Because the canonical responsibility of leadership can only be done by vowed members. And what's the canonical responsibility? This is canon law language, so don't be mad at me. It is the patrimony of the Institute. And canonically, what patrimony means is the mission. For us, John 17, that all may be one. The charism that is not ours, but we have a responsibility for it, from Philippians 2. The spirituality that we have been given, our nation's spirituality. The vocation of every single member, PPF, past, present, and future. The vocation. And then, oh, by the way, all the temporal goods. So I simply want to invite you to consider, as you think about essential elements for leadership, for the emergent religious life, and I invite you to consider what is the responsibility of leadership. And it is, of course, to oversee the corporation, obviously. Their names are on all the forms. We understand that. But some of the language that's being used these days, it's elected leaders' responsibility to make sure this gets done, and it's not their responsibility to do it. It is their responsibility to do the canonical, to make sure that the mission is kept alive, the charism is kept alive in the members, not in the buildings or the ministry, in the members. To make sure that the spirituality, for us, the Ignatian spirituality, keeps getting refreshed. And the next one is really important, to make sure that every vowed member lives her life fully and well until we take her to the cemetery. Not until she has a stroke, not until she can't remember. We live the mission and the charism in this life until we meet God. So I say this because here's what the experience is, and your leaders can support this or not, and your people who have been in leadership. We are at a moment in religious life, in the global north especially, where what's on the screen right now is consuming 97% of elected leaders' time, which is well and good, but this is not being done. And more seriously, what we're learning is that many leaders, men and women, think that by doing this very well, they are in fact furthering the mission and furthering the charism and furthering the spirituality and furthering the vocation. Do you see the difference? Okay. So I say that because as you get ready for chapter and you have your governance conversations, there are two questions. One is, what is religious life going through right now? What do you think you're living? And then secondly, what do you think your leaders need to lead? Do they need to lead the corporation? Do they need to lead the canonical? Do they need to do both? So it's just not a matter of, well, we need 6, elected members, and, we get the criteria together, and it has to be somebody who's named Mrs. Jesus Christ to be able to do it all, We're at a moment where what communities are finding they are unable to do by themselves anymore is hold up their umbrella. I've been with congregations that need 5 people for a leadership team, and they have 4 nominees. And they have over 250 members. So it's not just the poor little groups that only have 25 sisters. This is not about numbers, sisters and associates and brothers. This is about the sustainability of religious life. And how do we keep doing what we can possibly do so that God can keep calling who God needs to call? So I know that's a lot, but I wanted to lay out, when we talk about religious life right now, we have to understand that it is already not what it was. And how do we live this life fully? And secondly, if we're having conversations about governance and leadership, we have to really start asking ourselves, what do we need leaders to do? You know that commercial on television where the little girl's mother is putting the dishes in the dishwasher? And the mother's washing the dishes, back in the background, and the little girl's in the front of the screen saying, I thought the Cascade or whatever it was, washes the dishes, So, but Mommy washes all the dishes before she puts them in the dishwasher. And then she says this, what does the dishwasher do? I think that's a question now for us at this moment in history. What does leadership need to do that only leadership can do? Canonical leadership of the life, of religious life. If you don't like canonical, it's leadership of religious life. I'm just going to take just a pause here. I'm going to see if there's anything that would give you a chance to say a little buzz at your table. We're going to take some comments or questions before you have your discernment time. So all I tried to do was lay out a little visit to the emergence of religious life is already here. And it's already showing itself pretty clearly about what it's going to look like probably sooner than we can imagine. Cross-congregation, cross-charism, cross-men and women, cross. No more Brentwood, Philadelphia, Mercy, Dominican. I mean, there still will be that. But the living of the life is going to be inter. And then secondly, when we think about leadership right now, what do we really need leaders to offer? Just a moment of quiet. And let me invite you to a couple minutes at your table, because first of all, it's Saturday afternoon, and this is a lot. So a couple minutes at your table. As my nephew would say, well, geez, now we heard that, so what, So just some time to say to each other, well, so what? Or geez, I wonder, see if there's something you might want to say to the larger group, or a question you might have, okay? Just get a little sense of what might be in the room. Anybody want to share something that was said at the table, or a question that came up, or that you think will be helpful for the whole? I think we have some microphones. Oh, good, the microphones are up and walking. Yes, sister in the back.
Sisters and all, I am just delighted. It's the first time I have heard expressed and explained so clearly what it is that we're about. I don't know about you, but it's been a muddle to me. I guess because at the age of 40, maybe I stopped thinking this way. But I'm delighted to know that our place, even though we're moving towards a real homogeneous kind of working together, which is wonderful, that the vowed life is what my life and your life is about. So preserving that and working towards that, I think in looking for our leaders, they have to be as aware as Carol is making us about what this involves. It's not just, as the work is as wonderful as it is, and as wonderful as all the people, including us, are doing it, it's more than that. And I am just so thankful to you for clearing that up for me in such a positive and explainable way. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Couple more things that want to be put in the room that will just be helpful for the table conversation. Yes, please, over here.
I hate the microphone, but they made me know. What I shared at the table is I can't express how important Colleen's words are to me. I've read that article already before, and how deeply I've been touched in hearing it, but what it means to me to know the rest of this congregation is hearing it. Because as a newer member, when I hear the excitement around associates and agrégés and co-ministers, I am just as excited as everybody else, but what I'm hearing is what Colleen said. What about me? I feel so diminished about the congregation. What I'm hearing, the way I hear it is, does the congregation that I vowed my life to believe in a future for vowed religious life? And I never feel free to express that, because the sisters I live with, when I come to these community meetings, are very concerned about the numbers diminishing. And I enter because I love religious life. I believe in the future of religious life, vowed religious life. I also love ministering with associates. I'm working in a completely lay organization right now. I am a sister of St. Joseph. That's who I am. And it just means so much that I know the rest of the congregation hears that I believe in the future of this life.
Thank you. Maybe one more, and then I'll turn you to your table conversation. Yes, please.
I'm an associate. I've been an associate since 2002. And I'm here because I'm drawn to the canonical life. And I agree with the first person that, it's so clear, the corporate versus the canonical. And it's the canonical that draws us here. It's the corporate that makes it possible. But yet, it's also the corporate that the external world sees. And I think that's part of the struggle of religious life today, is that the external world does not understand or does not have the depth of feeling for any sense of that canonical life. And the future of religious life is going to depend on how that canonical life is expressed so that it pulls people in, because it has a powerful message. We're all here because we love God, we want to do well, we want to help each other, a zillion reasons. But we're aware of that. And so many people in the world are not aware of it, or don't have the luxury of making that choice, of understanding that choice, of seeing that life. And the corporate, everybody understands the corporate. HR, we've got to deal with HR. It's very easy to quantify, so it's easy to take care of those things. I mean, not easy in the sense of the day-to-day, but it's like you understand how to tie your shoes so you can tie your shoes. You don't need somebody else to do that. We don't have other people to live the canonical life. We have to live it. We have to show people what that means somehow.
So, okay, yes, please. The last one before you have your table conversation. Yes, please.
Carol, I just want to thank you for bringing up this issue of cross-congregation and cross-charism. I had the gift of being called to mission in the Appalachians back in the 70s and 80s and 90s. And for sure, we were communities of gathered together for the mission of the people there in Appalachia. So I have had the gift of and blessing of working with Sisters of Notre Dame, with the Jesuits, with lay volunteers, the Jesuit volunteer program, with Mercy Sisters. And we came together always cross-charism and cross-congregation, always for the people of the area, for the mission, and to spread the mission of the gospel at that time. So thank you for bringing that point up.
Good, and please, we're going to turn to some table conversation because I know that, the richness of really just wanting to share with each other. But on that point, just please make sure that you know that newer members in religious life love their home congregation. They love it, absolutely love it. And for a variety of reasons, they are living the life, rubbing shoulders with other newer members outside of their home footprint. That's where all the cross kind of thing comes in. But you also need to know that there's conversation about the charism of religious life. Not that individual charisms don't matter, but again, is there something deeper in this evolutionary time that seems to be emerging? Okay, would like to give you some time to talk with each other at your table. And this will be the home table. And again, in terms of logistics, we're not going to move. I told you would, but I take that back. Yeah. Well, the good thing is, what I was asked to do was, offer something that would help with some thinking about chapter and leadership and governance, and also this is what I'm doing. So this is not the only conversation you're going to have about this. I'm hoping it's the first minute of the 10,000 hours. But if you spend time with each other in your home table, contemplative kind of piece, as you think now, and you'll do more thinking and reading about this, what are two essential elements of living the life? Living religious life, living this vocation. And I'd invite our associates into the same conversation. You have a vocation also, an associate vocation. What's essential to living the associate vocation? You're called to the same charism. You're not called to the same life. You have your own, vocation. So this is a conversation that's universal. What's essential in living your vocation? For some of us in this room, religious life, and for others in the room, associate life. And then go right to the second question. As you think about leadership now and into the near future, what are one or two essential elements for leadership at this moment in time? Okay? So again, just a couple minutes of quiet, because this is going to be short kind of responses, no stories, distilled thought. So take some quiet time to get your two essential elements for living a life and two essential elements for leadership at this moment in religious life. And when your table is ready, you can begin. religious life or leading religious life. Okay? You don't have to answer both. Which one of those would your table like to respond to? So not both of them. Which one of them? So take a couple minutes and see if you can get a sense from your table, what are the essential elements we think about living religious life? Or maybe we want to do leading religious life. Okay? I invite you back. This is going to be a wonderful way to bring this day to some closure, because you can tell there's a lot of conversation that needs to happen. So how wonderful that you're riding right into chapter where these will be the conversations. What about the life and what about leadership? So could we have, are there some tables who have something to share with us about elements of the life? Anybody? Yeah. Want to come up here? We'll need some microphones. Oh, leadership. Okay. Anybody have anything on the life? Okay, yes, please. Want to come up here? Just need a couple of people up here, please, like we did before. Somebody else? Oh, thank you so much. Microphones need to come. Essential elements of living the life. Please pay attention to what is happening as you're responding to this. Okay. Thank you. Someone else? Okay. So we just need a microphone. All right, we'll do this. And could we have some tables stand behind them for leadership? Any tables have something they want to offer about 2 essential elements of leadership? Just make a line behind the life. Because leadership is supposed to support the life, okay? I know, it's pretty bad. Anybody else? Leadership. Okay, good. Don't be shy. You can tell, sisters, that typically, and I'm hoping for a chapter process, you'd have 45 minutes of home table and an hour of communal table. I mean, this process takes time. I'm just trying to kind of give you a feel for it. You will need to do it, among yourselves. Are you life or leadership? Behind the life, please. There's a bumper sticker. Leadership, get behind the life. Which they already are. Huh? They have no idea how our leaders are getting themselves up in the morning, actually. They're remarkable, just remarkable. Do we have somebody else coming for leadership? No? Okay. All right. We'll do the same thing we did this morning. Oh, good. Oh, thank goodness we have a double trinity. Oh, we have 3 life and 3 leadership. It's wonderful. Oh, makes my sister St. Joseph heart feel so happy. Okay? Yeah, created and uncreated. Right? All right, we'll do the same thing. We're actually going to use this as our closing prayer. So I'd ask you to just kind of hear this the way I invited you to hear it this morning. As you listen to the 3 tables, share what they're offering. We'll read it twice like we did this morning. What are you hearing? At least 3 tables saying. Then we'll do the same thing with elements for leadership. So let's just prepare ourselves to receive what's offered.
We said that we live our lives at a contemplative stance, which orientates us towards the common good and the needs of the dear neighbor, and that our canonical vows offer us unlimited availability to the dear neighbor, radical availability to the dear neighbor. Say it again? Oh, sorry, I don't know if you knew what I said the first time. But,
we'll forgive the lack of 8 to 15 words. Yeah.
We said that we are called to live out of a contemplative stance, which moves us through our canonical vows towards the common good and the needs of the dear neighbor, and that we can respond to the needs of the dear neighbor because of our availability to be with them.
We spoke about our foundational as a Eucharistic community. The letter of Father Madai has given us the roadmap, excuse me, and we're following that with the love of God and the love of neighbor. And our charism calls us to live this as a splendid and striking witness. And we need each other. We need each other for support, and for discussion, and for example. And as Catherine of Siena said, if we lived it, we would set the world on fire. In living out our charism, we went back to the letter of Father Madai, and we said that we are a Eucharistic community, which means we're called to contemplation in the mystery of Christ, who is the mystery of God. And we're called to live this in our personal life and in our communal life. But there is a need for sharing and support and discussion and example. And if we did, we would do as Catherine of Siena said, we would be set the world on fire.
In order to live the religious life, we need to be persons of prayer and contemplation. And we need to be joyful witnesses to the vowed life. In order to live religious life, we need to be persons of prayer and contemplation, and to be joyful witnesses to the vowed life.
One element for leading is to call us to deepen our own spirituality. Another element is to be able to draw upon the gifts of others in this process. The first element is to call us to deepen our own spirituality. The second element is to be able to draw upon the gifts of others in this process.
We spoke about the two elements, the canonical and the corporate, and spoke of how difficult it is to do both. As was pointed out, 97% of time is on the corporate. And we're already in process because we have leaders among us who are not vowed religious, who are helping us and moving us forward with their understanding of our charism and their understanding of what needs to be done on the corporate level. Our leaders then can focus more on the canonical and bringing us into the mission, being people of prayer, being people in relationship with others. When we think of the corporate, often you think of the things you have to go to because you're expected. And can we then turn it around and say that these corporate things are not what is our main part of our lives as leaders? It really is our canonical. It's our living of the mission. It's our sharing of the mission. And so while I would love to go to your dinner dance and your installation and your this and your that, I will send my representative, but I cannot do it as a member of the leadership team because our choice is to move more toward the canonical leader rather than the corporate leader. And since we're already in process, it should be an easy transition. And I won't be able to repeat it because I didn't write anything down.
We spoke about leadership also, and as persons who are able to listen to divergent views and then be able to synthesize, what they hear and articulate a mission. And also along those lines, the articulation of a collaborative view based on input from the congregation and coming to the vision of the common good. Being able to listen to divergent views and then be able to synthesize what was heard and form a new vision. And the articulation of a collaborative view based on the input from the congregation and coming to a common vision.
So again, in the quiet, just the tip of the iceberg of this conversation about voicing your vision for the future around the life and the leadership that the life needs now in this emergent time. So just a couple seconds of some quiet so you can, whatever you heard just now, let it just sink in a little bit. So associates, sisters and brother, what we've tried to do today is realize that we are in fact a detail, that we exist within a much, much, much larger world, and that what we do in wholes or parts matters, what we do here matters, what we do here matters. What we do here matters. All of it matters. And at this moment in religious life, what is ours in a transformational moment to try to discern is what really is ours to do. Really, what is ours to do here, now. So I'd like to invite you on your second page. It has the song on it and also your vision statement. Let's close with the little preamble that I actually used part of it to help frame my thinking for my time with you today. We'll just read that together. It's in the middle of the page. And we'll just stop after the word future. And so we close our day, grateful that words were given to you back in 1982, that you're still growing into, so they must be the right words. Let us pray. We are now at a new stage in our journey. Union and transformation continue as our focus. Jesus remains the center and source of our conversion and vitality. Inspired by the gospel and encouraged by our history, we voice our vision for the future. And to this we say, Amen. Thank you very, very much for inviting me today. It's always a delight to be with you.
I think we began acknowledging that Carol is a teacher. But I also think the common conversations, the thoughts that we expressed are saying we are willing and desire to struggle through this process because it is a process that will lead us into a future we may or may never see in our lifetime. But we want to thank Carol for the clarity, the ability to lead us through this, and I also think to thank Carol because this is who she has been all of her life and has evolved through all of the experiences, and I think that gives us confidence because we've had tremendous opportunities and tremendous experiences, and we have all had them, and now this is our time to ask God to inspire us and to encourage us into this future. And I think maybe we could all say, we will do this. Can we say that? We will do this. Thank you, Carol.